Dizzy Crafter here. Today I was actually going to do some Christmas cards with you. I'm hoping to do like a 12 days of Christmas type of thing, and I'm on this and it's in September now, so I thought I'll start getting some videos done so I'm not like rushing at near December time. So I'm trying to be a little bit more on the ball, and basically we're just going to try and recreate these two cards. This is the main card I was doing, and then this just so happened to be some background I'd used on the remnants of the ink from this. So I thought I'd show you the two together. So it will probably be quite a long video, but I will try to keep it as short as possible. So with that in mind, I'm going to just dive right in. So to create this circle here, I'd use this craft artist masking sheet, and I actually got this from Create and Craft, and I just die cutted a circle out, which is here and it's still going now. And then on my first card, I don't know if I've got it, yes I have, I've got it here, I actually put the outer of the circle on there as well, and it was just so sticky it ended up pulling off the card, but it doesn't matter because I can use it as a reference anyway, so I can still use it for my references. I can't use it as a card as such, but yeah, so it did go slightly wrong. So instead of doing that, because it wasn't necessary, I've used the same die and just cut it out of paper. It was only more necessary I wanted a really like a nice mask to put on there, because I wanted that sharp line rather than using a plastic acetate and holding it. I would never be able to hold it whilst doing all that detail. If you've not got one of these mask sheets, you could use a post-it, or like I say, try to use it and just keep a steady hand. I haven't got a steady hand to do all that work and everything. It would end up going underneath, so that's why I've done it that way, but there is ways around it. So for this particular one, we're going to use this stencil which came free in a magazine last year. I actually got it in the sales in January, so I never got a chance to use it, so that's why we're going to be using it today. Then we're going to be using this snowman Snow is Falling stamp set. Now for this card, I actually got these stamps free, Creative Stamper magazine, I think that's what it's called. I've subscribed to it, so I should know what it's called. And these, they've got actually two big A4 sheets of stamps from them last year. This time we are going to be using the tree obviously, but then we're going to be using this reindeer, and then we're also using the sentiment on there too. And then we're going to be using this Creative Expressions stencil as well. I've cut my cards down to fit a 5x7 card, so I've just took it down by ½ an inch, so it's 4.5 by 6.5. And then we're just going to bob the circle onto one of them. I'm just going to try and eyeball that so it's kind of in the centre. So the ink pads we're going to need are Distress Oxide and Speckled Egg and Cracked Pistachio, but like I say, you feel free to use whatever colours you want. Jo has really encouraged people when you watch her videos to get the tools out that scare them, and as it happened, I was scared of this. BRAYER, as Jo was too, and I thought, right, we're just going to bite the bullet and do what Jo says, and she's got some really good hints and tips. I will link her YouTube down below, because I have learnt so much in the last, I'd say about 6 weeks I've been watching her videos. So we're just going to ink the BRAYER up, only on one side, so we're kind of like going halfway. Like Jo says, when you see it, it's all hiddle-de-piddle-de, as you can see. It's not smooth at all, whereas that's going to give you lines on your project. So what you need to do is just run it over the craft mat, and then that smooths it out much better. And we're just going to run it like as far as you want. I'm looking for like an ombre effect, so it's going to fade into that cracked pistachio. Still need more. I still want more, so I want to put more in. Just because this is such a light colour, it's very hard to pick up. It is picking up here, but I'm not getting anything down here. So again, I'm just going to run that off, but I'm not going to start the brayer here. I will always start the brayer this side coming down. Check my brayer. Now, there's lots of ink left on this craft mat, and that's where our second card comes in. So I'm literally just going to spray that with some water, let it bead up. I might just get a brush and just move it a bit because there's a lot more on there than there was on my last lot. I'm just going to place that in. As you can see, we've got a nice subtle background there. I'm just going to add more in. I'm just going to pop that onto the side. Still got lots of ink on this brayer, so instead of cleaning it off with a wipe, I'm just going to clean it off on the paper. I'm going to take the cracked pistachio and we're going to do the same, but instead of starting at this end, we're going to start it at this end. And roll it on the mat again to blend it in. Check. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And then start again at the bottom and I work our way up to the middle. And making sure you go over the whole card from left to right or right to left, whichever way you work. And we want to try and meet up with the speckled eggs section, and that's that kind of background for now. So we'll just leave that for one side and then come back to the other card again, sprinkle it with water. I'm literally just going to go in hope that we get some of those speckles, because that's what I want. And we didn't, not this time. Maybe I put too much water on. Well, that's the thing with these cards, like you get what you get, and that's that. Now I have actually got another spare piece of card here, so I can try it. Ah, that's a bit more speckled. Yeah, I much prefer that one to this one. But it doesn't matter because it's only a background, so I'm not that fussed. Now I'm going to get this speckled egg again. I'm going to just stencil around this circle to make it a more defined circle. Now there is plenty of ink still on this mask. I know you probably can't see it, but if I move my finger like that, you'll see it. I don't know if the camera's picking up. Can you see that there? So there's still plenty of ink on there as well. So I'm basically just going to dab this in to there and then into the lid and then dab it onto the mask, and then I'm just literally like spraying out. And I'm just going to go around the whole thing doing this. Now these are all new techniques to me that I've not learnt before, so I'm hoping that if you've not seen Jo, you're catching it here, and then you can go and check her out. Although I'm sure if you're watching me, you definitely would have seen Jo Rice, because she's just amazing. If you're into this style of card as well. I know I'm not actually using Lavinia stamps, but that's another good thing that I'm showing you. You don't have to use Lavinia stamps. I want to come out quite far with this one because we're going to come in with a deeper colour in a minute. but I'm just going to whiz the brush around the edges there. And I'm just going to literally run my brush over this tissue to get the excess of that colour off, because again I don't want to contaminate my ink pads, but I have like these stencil brushes and I've labelled them up, so I'll only use green with this bristle brush, this stencil brush, because I don't want to brush for every single Distress Oxide or every ink pad, so I just take the excess off and Bob's your uncle. I don't need a million brushes then. So again, tap onto the lid, and then we are going to tap on the mask again because this is a much deeper, brighter colour. There's lots of ink there still in that lid, so I don't need to go on the ink pad. I don't want to brush this out over as much as I did the other colour. So I'm just going around very lightly. And then again I'm brushing around just so that the ink gets around that edge. Just try to clean some of the ink off because we're going to come in with a white ink pad now. So yeah, so we're just going to use this stencil and picket fence, but I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but I have slightly contaminated this ink pad using the brush with the when it's hitting the green off it, it's catching. So what I am going to do, which I'd seen somebody do, so I can't remember who it was, or if it was in a comment or something, just going to put some of the ink pad down, the ink on there, and then take it from there, and I can just keep adding as I need it, because it does take some ink to do this, because this white is quite a wishy-washy white. So I just plonk my stencil anywhere, but keeping hold of it at all times. And we're just going to brush that. Like, can you see as I'm going, I'm literally touching this circle to try and get these remnants of this little one here. So I would have picked up the green ink pad when I did that. Not the ink pad, but the ink from the ink pad. And I like them coming off the page because it makes it look more realistic in my opinion. So let's just have a look. Can you see that? Like I say, it's not anything really bright, and if anyone knows of a really good bright ink pad, a white one, I'd appreciate you letting me know. Although to be fair, I like this look because it kind of gives you that distressed look. It's kind of traditional but untraditional because of the colours I've chosen. Now on one of my things I did with the stenciling, I actually wet the ink so it was more runny, and that was quite cool as well because it ended up being like more blurry and more into the background. And that's that all stenciled up. Again, we're just going to spritz that, dab our card into it. And I just want to give these two a little bit of a blast with the heat tool. Now we need to remove this mask again, but being very careful. I mean, you can see here, like I actually put the tweezers through the mask at one point, trying to remove it. You've got like a little bit of a lip. You can take it and hold the card down and keep pushing on with it, because the tighter you pull, the more, I don't know what the word is, but the more you got it tighter. You'll know what I mean if you use these things. the less likelihood is it's going to pull any card off, which we haven't, so that's perfect. So we just need to put this back on to here. And what we do need is our template, and Joe always stamps on paper, which I've never done. So I don't chuck my papers I've used, I put it to the bottom of the pile. That way I'm not wasting paper, and I can use these then through on my die cutting, you know, like when you get the marks on the plates. Well, I don't want the mark on the, we get the marks off the plates, but then it reverses onto the cardstock, so I just tend to use these. So yeah, so at least I'm not like wasting, just using pieces here and there all the time. I'm actually using them over and over as much as I possibly can. Also a tip, like I've never actually stamped this way, but since watching Joe I have been, and I do find it easier, Joe, so thanks for this tip. I mean, since being back crafting and I've had the Misty and stuff like that, I've not really used acrylic blocks because I never really had much success with them, but since watching Joe's videos I have had a better success, and I don't know if it's down to the paper or if my technique is just getting better or not, but I've definitely got better, in my opinion anyway. So I'm just going to try to marry that up over the circle. Now there is a tiny bit of green showing, but hopefully like not enough to this stamp will, it won't hit all them, hopefully. So you'll know what I mean. It didn't on the others, and I could see slightly a bit of green. And I'm just using VersaFine Clay in Nocturne. Now you can choose whatever colour you like, but this is the colour I like, just for these outline stamps for certain, especially being snowmen as well. Just check that circle, check I've got all my stamp, and then if my head gets in the way I do apologise. And I'm trying to get the snowman's hat as high as possible, but not out of the circle. I'm just going to put that down. And voila, it's done. Now you'll see what, and I remove that and you can see it's not gone out of that circle. So now we want to colour this in, and I am still keeping with this theme, so I'm just going to be using the cracked pistachio, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the craft mat here, and then take a fine brush with some water on, and then we're just going to paint with this, and we're just going to wet this up. And I'm just going to literally go in, and I'm just using a little thin brush. This is number 1 from Lavinia. But any thin brush will do. Doesn't really have to be precise because we're just kind of whitewashing it, if you like. Just have that colour. So that's it for the cracked pistachio. Might just add a little bit more there. And then we're going to come in with the speckled egg and do the same. We're going to go around the snowman and the noses and the snow and stuff like that. And you literally only need a tiny bit on the mat. And I like to have different depths, so you could have more water on one section than another. And I also like to just dab these little snow and colour them in, which just reminds me, actually I did actually add some more snow to my other bit card, so we'll add some more snow and I'll show you how I did that. So I'm just going to go on like the outlines of the snow, just so there's a little bit of colour going on. I'm not colouring the whole thing. I'm just going to go in the shadows of the snowman. For the noses, I'm going to go more or less with a dry brush and just brush over them noses with its more or less pure ink. I really want to water down the ink now for doing the fur on the hat. So like I say, I forgot to actually add the snow in, and I basically just went in with a fine liner and just put some random extra snows in. And while we wait for this to dry, we're going to go back working on our other card. I'm just kind of going to go in a diagonal this time. Still going to stick with those colour palettes of ice, keeps calling it ice spruce, speckled egg and cracked pistachio. So I'm just going to come in on the edges. See how that's looking? That's looking pretty cool. Try to keep the stencil where it is, and I'm just going to brush off the excess because we're going to come in with the cracked pistachio at this end. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's much more delicate than the previous one. Like I say, the splodges seem to be more, but I feel like I went more with the cracked pistachio in the background. I'm totally off camera there, but I like that it's more subtle, to be fair. So let's see if we can go slightly heavy-handed on this one then this time. We'll start with the darker at the top. I'm not really going to brush much off the brush, so we have got that darker one. So this one's much darker, but I like the both of them. What do you guys think? Which do you prefer, the paler one or the more deeper one? So we're going to add some glitter, and we're going to add this Dot and Dab Ultimate Glue pen. I've never really used this pen up until doing these cards, and it gives a really nice subtle glitter rather than using, I used to use like the PVA glue in one of these tubs. I just got it in one of these little tubs, which is fab, but it's the glitter is quite raised, and I do like that look, but I do also like this more subtle look. So all I'm going to do is just go over all those snowflakes and dab onto there. And then I just want to highlight a little bit of the snowman, like to give him a bit of a glisten, just here and there. Not really thinking about where I'm putting it. And then on the snow peaks too. And then we want to just randomly go over the whole card. So I feel like that's probably had enough. And I know this paper is rather used, but like I said, try to use the papers as much as I can. And this, I'm not going to get a fresh piece just for the video, because that's just a bit silly. Looks nice being all nice and fresh, but... And that's the card with the glitter on. So then all we need to do now is actually mount this up onto a card. I actually got this glitter card last year in Hobbycraft. They were selling them all off for a couple of quid or £1 a pack or something. Do is just take some PVA glue and just go around the edges, and then we can glue this onto this card. Then we just want to eyeball it really. Good thing about having the wet glue is it gives you that time to manipulate it somewhat. And when you're happy, just turn it over and give it I rub down, and then we just want to mount that onto a card. Again, just eyeballing this to go on. That's pretty alright, so just gonna pop that on there. And all that's needed is a sentiment. Now, I said I'd done some sentiments, so rather than just doing one sentiment, there was quite a few scraps, like little scraps when I cut these cards down to stamp on. There was quite a lot of these, so I thought, well, rather than just stamping, getting a whole sheet, I used the scraps, so I've just done quite a few. So we've got Merry Christmas from our family to yours, and then we've got another one saying wishing you a magical Christmas. So I feel like I'm probably going to give these to my neighbours, so I feel like having this Merry Christmas from our family to yours would be better. I'm just going to edge it up with, well, this one's Evergreen Bough. I'm just going to edge the corners of it all up so it ties in with the card. It's done that, but just bob it on a 3D foam tape. You could just decide where you want it. I want my tweezers because I can see better then. So do I want it there or there? I actually prefer it down here like I did on the original. So that card's practically done. Not quite, but it's practically done. But we're going to carry on now and do one of these. I feel like we should do this one because it's slightly paler, so then we'd have two different design, the same design but two different colourways. Well, it'll look slightly different. What I'm going to do is the tree. So I'm just going to again take the VersaFine Clay to the card. I'm going to put my main tree in first, and want plenty of ink on this because it is a silhouette stamp. I mean, really what I should have done is stamp this up prior to doing the background because the oxide will show through, but that's how I did it on this, the other cards. So I wanted to keep them the same. So I'm just going to bob that down there and leave it there for a while. Now because these are the stamps that come free with the magazines, they do squish quite easily. As good as they are, they're not as good as stamps you buy. They are quite thin, so try not to press too further down, although it's just habit and I do tend to forget. So that's not bad. And then I want a second generation, so it's going in the background, but I don't want it the same height as this, so I'm actually going to lift that up like so. And then we did do a third one. Now I'd like to have done it like there, but then it just looks wrong because like the way it is, so I'm kind of gonna go slightly over there, so they are slightly, ever so slightly different heights. So that one didn't turn out too great, but I'm not fussed because it's meant to be in the background anyway. And again, we definitely want to be holding that down for a good minute or so at least. There we go. And like that would have actually been perfect if I hadn't stamped on top of the oxides. But Jo being Jo, she gives us lots of good hints and tips, and she says to get a Sharpie or use a paintbrush and use the ink pad you're using and just literally dot. Don't draw it, just dot it, because then you don't see it. If you colour it, you see it, she says. Unfortunately, I carried on and I didn't realise my memory card had got filled. So all I've done is put a moon in here and some of this little tiny flourish using evergreen bough. But I will show you how I did the moon. Just on, luckily we had this spare piece, so it's going to be the exact same, and you don't really need to see me stamping the little flourish because it was just stamping a flourish. I took the medium circle from the Lavinia mask. I used speckled egg. You just basically dab it on there, but put it onto the moon, and then you're literally going to just whiz around, a bit like what we did earlier on when the mask was actually stuck on the snowman. And you just keep checking there. Can you see? There is a difference. So I'm happy with that, and that's how you kind of create that. If I wanted it to shine even more, I could have gone with a deeper colour again, but I'm happy with that. So now I've showed you that, we can carry on with the other one if that's okay. Now if I'll show you my original one, you can see this one is much brighter, and that's as well as because obviously the background is slightly paler as well, but I did go over with evergreen bough around the edges, and that's what we're going to do again. Start on the corners, and I like to go quite close to the corner with my kitchen towel, because otherwise I end up catching the edges more than I wanted to and pulling up the corners. Now I just feel like that looks so much better, and I could go more if I wanted to, but I feel like I am just going to edge it a little bit in black. I didn't do this on the other one. I think I actually edged it in a Sharpie, I can't remember. I think I may have done, but I'm just going to take the black soot, and I'm not actually going to put any extra ink on, and I'm literally going very gently and very slowly because I don't want to go too deep into it, but just to give it that extra oomph. Again, we're going to take the dot dab pen, and I'm just going to put random pieces, dots everywhere. And sprinkle away. Now it looks like I have got all of that, but I haven't, and I'm not going to. I can brush off the reindeer because we didn't put anything on the reindeer. It's just this glitter just sticks to everything, and once all the glue is dry, I will brush off. I need to do the grounding. I should have done that before the glitter. What a thing that I am. So all I've done is taken a piece of paper and torn it, and then we're going to come in with cracked pistachio first. And I'm just kind of placing this where the reindeer's feet are, so she's not floating in the air. I'm just going in very gently. Keep hold of the paper. Oh, maybe that was too gently, Jean. So just keep checking, like you want it deeper at the front than at the back. So I'm just gonna, and I want to whisper that out. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with that. And then these trees need grounding too. So it's just adding that little bit of extra depth to it. And I think that is more or less done other than the sentiment. Now I'm a little bit undecided here. We've got, like I say, lots of these here, but if you look on the original, I kind of wish I'd carried on with the original because I kind of like having this foliage coming from behind. But if I put that there, we're losing the day's leg. I've got no choice but to put it there unless I pop it up here, which that's a bit different, and it's still in with the foliage. Yeah, I think I'll put it there actually. As you can see, I'd actually smoothed out the edges of this one using this little punch thing. So I'll try again, but it kind of didn't go too well last time, but we'll keep trying, eh? So I'm just going to pop it in there and then press down. Go around the edges with evergreen bow again. Then I've actually glittered up this sentiment, so let's do that again. And then what we did was we taped this onto the backing paper, which we'll do again. Move everything out of the way because it's Posca time. So this is what Jo does. Well, actually she can flick it and I can't flick it whatsoever. I'll try again, but I very much doubt it. So give it a good shake. It's going everywhere up the card. Right, I'm just going to do it how I managed to do it yesterday, and that was with bashing the pen. And you get less bigger splodges there as well actually. And then I just need to put this sentiment on and then attach it to a card. You know what, I'm actually going to put it down here. I'm going to keep this space empty up here. So I can't really attach this to a card as yet because everything, all that Posca needs to dry. I mean, the Posca seems to be sinking in on this ink here, whereas on the original definitely showed up a lot more, but maybe the splats was bigger enough, I don't know. The one thing else I wanted to share with you is the inserts. Now I have not got time to be doing loads of stamps in inserts and stuff, so I literally went and got my stencil and went over all the insides with it, and we're going to go with cracked pistachio. Just going to do the same thing as everywhere else and just going. Now this doesn't really need to be anything amazing or out like that because it's only the insert and it's just to give that little continuity to the card and a little decoration. So that's all we've done to the insert itself. As you can see, it's very, very subtle, but it just adds that little bit extra to the card. And then all I do is open the card up, take some double-sided tape. I mean, you can use wet glue if you like, but I just feel like this is a quick and easy way of doing it. I'm just going to pull a strip of that off, go down the centre, so where the crease mark is. Doesn't matter if it's skew width like that, but you want some on either side. Fold that down, and pull that off, and then we're just going to marry this insert up, and it's just copier paper, that's all I've used. And then fold that over, burnish it down, and then the insert will open like as you open the card, so it's because you've taped it in the centres, so that's why it does that. So that's our cards done. All I've got to do is mount this one onto a card now, which will take me a couple of minutes, you don't even see that. And there are 2 cards finished. I hope you've actually managed to stay with me because this has ended up being much longer than I anticipated, and next time I would definitely just do the 1 card. But I'd just like to say a big thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd love it if you would comment and subscribe, and hopefully I shall catch you in the next video. Bye!